Hello. Programming is all about solving problems. Computer programming is always solving problems. It could be e-commerce or scientific or mathematics or anything. Any programming is, it means we also, as a software engineer, we solve problems. Okay. So therefore, it is very important for you to develop problem solving skills before writing any coding. So before you writing coding, you need to know what you are writing a coding, what you are solving, how we are going to solve. That is what we are going to look at it. So I am developing a 40 to 50 video series to teach you how to develop your problem solving skills. This is for the beginners or anyone who is interested to learn or understand or just out of curiosity what is programming all about. Okay, so let's start with the flowchart. Flowchart is one of the way to solve the problems. It's a flowchart. How do you define flowchart? It's a pictorial or diagrammatic representation of procedures. The procedure means you can write step 1, step 2, step 3 in plain English as a descriptive way. Sometimes it may mislead. Therefore, flowchart is a best practice to solve problems. So today we are going to look at simple problem, how to solve the simple problem, which is very easy one, add two numbers. Okay, how to add two numbers. So this is what we are going to start with, but as we move on, we are going to look at more complex problems like a matrix, inverse, scientific calculation, all those things. This is what we are going to cover in the next 40 to 50 video series. The key point is, don't watch this video just like that. You bring your notebook or pen with the notebook. Make sure you have the clean notebook. You are going to record, you need to record all these 40 to 50 flowchart. At the end of the series, you will gain very good knowledge of solving problems. This will stay with you lifelong. Okay, this is based on my experience. There are a number of flowchart symbols are available, but we are not going to cover everything in this video. What we do, we take a problem, we'll draw a flowchart, whatever the symbol is required for that problem, that is the only thing we are going to cover. As we go along, we'll cover more. I think the maximum 5 or 6 symbols are there. That is more than enough to solve all our problems. Okay, or not our problems, the problem in general. Okay, so let's start. The first problem we are going to take is add two numbers. So in order to add two numbers, we need two numbers. So let's start a process first. So this is the first symbol, start. This is just an oval symbol to start. If you start your flowchart with the start, you must end with the stop. If you start with the begin, you must end with end. Okay. So I'm starting start, so I will end with the stop. Okay. Next we need two numbers. So first number, okay, let me call number 1, number 2, or you may call A, B, C, but let's make it, when you define a variable, make it meaningful name. So this is a very good practice when you write a program, so you follow the same practice, okay? So I'm going to leave some space there. I'll explain the reason why. For first, I need input. So I need a number 1. So how do you tell computer, or how do you represent this as an input? This is a parallelogram, like a parallel line, and then just join together. This is a input, or you may write as an input there also. Okay, input number 1. You need another number, which is number 2. Again, parallelogram. Okay. Whenever you write your flowchart, whenever you draw your flowchart, make sure you write the variable name or calculations, anything first and then put the diagram. Otherwise, sometimes you may put a diagram, a box, and then your variable, your calculation may not fit in the box. Okay, so make sure you do this. Next one, we are going to add these two numbers and then store that into another variable called result or sum. When I say variable, it does not have, it is a memory, it's a computer temporary memory. It does not have constant value. Okay, whatever value we are going to allocate, that is the value of that variable. For example, if you have a glass, if you pour water, that value of glass or content of the glass is water. If you pour juice, that content of the glass is juice. So the content, the glass itself does not have any value. It holds anything, whatever you put into that. That is called variable. In computer programming, the variable that will hold whatever the value you allocate into variable, that is the value of that variable. Okay. So I'm going to leave some space there. I'll tell you in a minute why. Now I am going to add these two numbers and I'm going to store in value of sum, which is our total or result. You can call anything. So I'm saying sum. I'm going to add number 1 plus number 2. This is an arithmetic operator, plus, minus, divide, multiple. Those are all arithmetic operators that we will cover in the next classes. So this is a calculation. Now I need to put rectangle. This is a third symbol. So first symbol is oval, start, input, which is parallelogram, and then the rectangle symbol. This is for process or calculation or value assignment. All those process will take, this box will represent all of this. Okay. Now we got the number 1, we got number 2 as input. We have calculated number 1, number 2, and then stored in the variable sum. Next, we are going to display. You can print or display. So I'm going to print. Print also, what I'm going to print, because these two values, value of the sum is going to store in this sum, in this variable. Next, we are going to print. What we are going to print? Print sum. This is output, this is input. Print is output or display is output. Again, we are going to use the same symbol as input, which is a parallelogram. This represents output or the print. Now our task is achieved. We have achieved our task. We completed the task. We have started. We added. We just requested number 1 as input, number 2 as input. We have calculated, stored the value into the variable sum. The sum is printed. Okay. Now process complete. Therefore, we must stop. Start and stop is the same symbol, which is out. Okay. As you can see now here, it's all independent boxes. This is our idea. This is our logic. When problem comes to us, you need to think a logic. How do I solve this problem? This is the key element. Okay. So these are the steps I need to solve this problem. Okay. Now there are two elements I left it here. One is because the flowchart is an idea to solve the problem, but you need to apply this flowchart. You need to convert this flowchart into a programming, and various type of programming that we'll discuss later. We need to write a code and then transfer this logic into a code. So as a best practice, this is a variable, number 1. Number 2 is another variable. Sum is also another variable. Okay. So rather than this is additional step which is not required when you do the flow chart, but as a learner, you learn this with a proper way, which this idea, you just tune your mind to this way, which is the way I'm going to tell now. You initiate the value. What is number 1? You don't know. So therefore, you need to assign or initiate value with a 0. So number 1 equal to 0. That is number 1 equal to 0, number 2 equal to 0. This is initial value. Okay? Initially, there is no value for number 1, number 2. Therefore, you are indicating number 1 equal to 0, number 2 equal to 0. That is the initial value. And then you ask the user, what is number 1? Give me the input. What is number 2? Give me the input, number 2. Now, another variable we have here, which we have used for the calculation, sum. Again, as a best practice, you initiate this value, which is sum equal to 0. That initial value is also 0. As you can see, all the value assignment is all using rectangle. Rectangle, rectangle, even for the calculation or computational, we use rectangle. For value assignment, we use rectangle and rectangle. Now the process is complete. Okay, now the last thing, how does it work? Which one comes first? What is the sequence? That we cannot mention here. How can you mention that? You can use arrows like that. This indicates how the flow goes. What is first step? What is second step? Where the control goes, okay? So that is what this indicates. All these arrows, and then that. So now this flow chart is complete. It indicates how to solve how we are solving problem, which is a sum of two numbers. Add two numbers. So start the process. Initially, we need two input, number 1, number 2. We don't know what is the input is. Those are number 1, number 2. So therefore, you assign initial value as a 0. Number 1, 0, number 2, 0, because we don't know. And then input, this is input control. Enter in number 1. This is the time user enter the value, number 1. And then input number 2, user enter the second value. Now, we got the value from the users. We are going to allocate, we are going to calculate number 1, number 2 and assign into variable sum. So the variable sum, that is also we don't know what is the value of sum or the total or the result. Therefore, you initiate a value with a 0. So this step, value assignment is not required in the flowchart. The reason I am saying this one, this is a best practice. When you write a program, if you practice this way, this comes naturally. When you write a program, you automatically go and declare a variable in the first place, and then you carry on. So most of the languages require the variable declaration. Whether it's required or not, it is a good practice. Okay. Now we got the values, sum of two numbers in the sum value variable. Now the output is sum. So this is okay. Now the logic is done. It is very, very important. Whenever you write a piece of code, you must test your logic. Make sure your logic works. Okay. So how you are going to test? Let's say from here, how many variables we use? Number 1, number 2, and then the sum. So we use 3 variables. Yeah. Now the first okay, now you follow the sequence. What is the value of number 1? 0. Put 0. What is the value of number 2? 0. Okay, input. Now we are asking user, give me the input, number 1. Okay, let's say number 1 is 4. This is where you are giving the number. Now number 1 becomes not 0 anymore. That value is 4 because it's a variable. The last value what you allocate to the variable, that is the value of that variable. Okay, so number 1 value is not 0 anymore because now you inputted number 1 as a 4. Number 2, let's say 5. Now number 2 value is 5. Next one is sum equal to 0. Now it is a temporary memory, so it allocates value to that variable. When it comes to this step, sum becomes 0. Now we have initiated the value. Now the calculation. So we know the number 1 what it is. Number 1 4. Number 1 number 2 5, 4 plus 5 9. Some in the computer programming, always on the right hand side of equal symbol comes to the left hand side. This is an assignment. Okay, it calculates two values and then store into variable called sum, which is 9. Now sum value is 9. Print sum. This is the one is going to print and then stop the process. Very, very important to test your logic. Again, when you transfer this into programming, you write a program and then execute, it works, but you need to make sure before you handing over to others or test team, you need to write a test cases. So the way that is different concept, writing a test cases in programming, but you prepare yourself like a mental model. So initiate the value, do the flowchart to solve the problems. Whatever flowchart you have drawn there to solve problem, you test yourself. Apply values on each variables. Go through your sequence. Apply the value. Now you can see the value of each one. So this way you can be sure that your logic works all the time. Testing is very, very important. Okay. So this is the kind of flowchart I'm going to teach you in the video series into next 40 to 50 videos. After problem solving skills development, I'm going to teach system analysis and design. We'll take a number of live projects, which is e-commerce or any projects, and then write we decompose that big project into a group of elements. Then we'll solve each system by doing analysis in diagrammatic way, which is a flowchart. In the system analysis, we'll add more symbols, but let's not worry about that now. Okay, so now you got the idea what is flowchart, how to solve problem. This is a very simple problem. Let's start with. I would like to give a homework to you. Now you know how to do this. You solve next, before you come to the next class, before you watch my next video, you solve how to add three numbers. So we got number 1, number 2, you need to add number 3. You need to get another input variable, which is number 3. Sum is going to be same. When it comes to the calculation, sum equal to number 1, number 2 plus number 3. Add and then execute sum. Okay, print sum. When you do this, you test, make sure you test number 1, number 2, number 3 and then the sum. Okay, but make sure you record this process in a brand new notebook, which will be really, really helpful in the future. Throughout, as long as you want to be a programmer, this process will help you, and then make sure you develop problem solving skills, like a foundational skills, very strong foundational skills. Okay, this will be very, very useful tool for you to be success in the software development field. I'll see you in the next video, but before that, you subscribe, and you can share with other people, those who are in the same field, wanted to learn computer or understanding programming or how to solve the problems, or just out of curiosity, what is programming all about. And if you met anyone like that, then you're happy to share this. Let's do the proper coding session happily. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.